Just saying. That's right.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, and welcome to this portion of tonight's meeting, Public Works Recreation Committee agenda, held today, obviously, on the 19th. Notice to members of the public, all cell phones, pagers, and BDAs be turned off. I am your chair, Councillor Trombetta. Just like to regretfully inform you that Councillor Rayner will not be a part of this meeting this evening. Any change in orders in the item on the agenda? Seeing none, move on to disclosure of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. Seeing none, we have no appointments. So obviously we have nobody here to request any items on the agenda. I see nobody in the gallery. We'll skip to number 6, consent agenda items. All listed items considered to be routine, non-controversial, and be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless the council member requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution, considering immediately following adoption of remaining consent agenda items. So IA PW 41-17 West Lincoln Public Library, May 9th, 2017 minutes. 2, recommendation report RFD PW 2217 parking restrictions Manorwood Drive and Oakdale Boulevard. 3, recommendation report RFD PW 2017 speed limit reduction on Abingdon Road from concession 5 to Regional Road 65. 4, recommendation report RFD 24 PW 24 2017 candidate 150 event request for the approval of 2 refreshment cart licenses. Recommendation the Public Works Committee hereby approve the following consent agenda items. Number 1, item 1 be hereby received for information. Items number 2, 3 be hereby received and the recommendations contained therein adopted with the exception of, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. So we would like some items pulled before I move and second it. Okay, so let me start to, let me start on my left. I'm gonna have to get a pen and pencil, see who wants to.
There's only 4. So.
Okay, so what do we want to pull, people?
Dealing all of them each individually.
The only one that's not pulled is 1.
So is everybody okay with, so can I get a mover and seconder for, do you want to pull one?
I do.
Okay, so we're going to pull all 4 of them.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to pull all 4 of them. So we should just move to recommendation number 1. And I had to my left, I'll start with who pulled, was Councillor Ganan. I need a mover and a seconder. Mayor Joyner, Councillor Chichuk. Councillor Ganan, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify it, and I thought I would be the only one to pull anything. I just wanted to explain that there are recommendations in there, and they did come to council the last time. And there were some questions the last meeting of council as to why we were looking for things in advance of the meeting. And it was explained that it was because of the due process that we needed to follow to make sure we met the timelines for Wellandport and to meet the grant. And so these minutes are nothing new. I just want to confirm that all of those things were already addressed at the last meeting of council. So, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything for number 1? Can we hereby receive that for information first while they get that with and then go on to 2, 3, and 4? So I need a mover and a seconder. So, and any comments, questions? Are we seeing none? All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Move on to item 2. So I'm sorry, everybody had their hands up. I saw Councillor Chichuk swiftly put her hand up, so I'll let you. Oh, no.
Sorry, I thought you needed a motion.
I'll need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Chichuk, Councillor Bell. Comments or questions for Councillor? Which one are we discussing? Number 2 or number 2? Councillor Chichuk.
I'm looking at the request that's there, and I want to know what it takes to get a 4-way stop and what costs we actually. That is a speed trap. I have watched that corner, and there's lots of other ones, but tell me what does it cost us to put in a 4-way stop?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Chichuk, the cost, the material costs are not that much. Under the process, though, is that we've completed a stop sign warrant under the Ontario Traffic Manual, which prescribes when and when not to put a stop sign in. One of the first items it says in the OTM is that a stop sign, an inappropriate use of a stop sign is as a speed device. It is not intended for that. So by putting a four-way in, we have a warrant that was done by a professional traffic engineer that said right now, there's some volumes, but the turning movements are not meeting all the requirements. By putting that in, you could potentially create a different safety hazard because there may be an expectation that the car is going to stop and the driver's psychology will not see that and plow through into a pedestrian. So our concern is, should you go against that traffic warrant, that the township that liability. So we've proposed this pilot program to slow down, do the traffic calming on Oakdale Boulevard, and they're set at distances just far enough from that intersection to slow those vehicles down so that they're not picking up that speed again to get to that stop sign as a pilot program to see how that works. But right now, that stop sign does, or that intersection does not warrant an always stop under the Ontario Traffic Manual.
So 6 months, thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Chairman, through you. 6 months from now, when that rest of that survey, that, I don't know what it's called, but Anastasia Street, et cetera, it continues on, and there's that whole new subdivision down there that's going in. Once it's complete and it's fully occupied, would we do the survey again? Because that might be one of the ways they're trying to get out.
Sorry. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councilor Chichuk, there's a potential for that. There's no guarantee that it will meet that because part of the warrant, like it really depends on origin and destination. We don't know if that traffic's going out to Harvest Gate and then going out that way as well, right? So, of course, there's always a potential.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Chichuk. Anyone else wants to discuss on this? Okay. I have nothing to discuss. I think we have item 3 that wants to,
No, we got,
do we have to vote on too?
sure.
Sure. Let's do it. So we have I already have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor of number 2, that carries. We'll move on to number 3. Need a mover and
Two on
seconder for number 3.
Anastasia.
Councillor Bell, anybody else? Councillor Bylsma. Comments or questions for item 3?
Oh, I wanted to pull number 3.
Sure.
My question is, it may sound silly, but I understand that we want to do a speed limit reduction because we have individuals that we want to care for. But it often, what happens when those individuals have matured and they no longer live there? We're putting in a speed reduction for, is it for a time? Would we relook at it? Do we have an automatic that says 15 years from now, it may be that the people aren't living there anymore? You know, because I oftentimes go by a sign on 65 that says deaf child lives here. No disrespect, but you know.
No.
I think I don't think that child lives there anymore. And so I just wonder where the redundancies come in when we do things for, I think we should do them, don't get me wrong. It's just when do we know that we don't need those anymore for that particular special need?
So just can I add further because I have a little information on this area because it's in
You
my
go right
ward,
ahead.
Councillor
I know it's your
Chichuk.
area, Councillor. It was just a question that I had and I wondered.
And your questions are valid. That child still lives at that home. I was just there recently, 2 weeks ago. So that child still lives at that home. Goes by Kelly. She's in that. You should know that because your parents live in that area as well, Councillor Bosma. Right now, we have no signs posted, I think, between Concession 5 to Silver. There is no speed limit
No.
signs posted. There's also a hamlet, which is encroaching, what is between Concession 5 and Silver Street, which is Abingdon, all those homes. We have about 25 homes in that area. So there's other areas of this municipality where, and maybe I can direct it to our director, he can further continue with my thoughts on this, so.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councilor Chichuk and the other members of committee. This particular case from a public works aspect, we see that as a special case. There is not, when we did do the review, our operations manager was out there and speaking with the people. There is not one person, but there are three people with special needs right now. To answer your question, you know, there is no fail-safe, right, to go back right now, you know, but on the south side, it does make a bit of sense to us because on the south side of Regional Road 65, I believe the speed limit is already reduced, right? But it's not, normally we would keep it at 80, but we do see that this is a special need with three individuals there.
And Mr. Chairman, thank you. Through you, I guess if it hadn't said we're reducing it because of the special needs, it all of a sudden struck me that someday people move, you know? And so if we wanted to reduce speed, because I can tell you, Regional Road 65, yesterday and the day before, it was like a speedway. And I saw a close to fatality again at Port Davidson and 65. And it made me think, when I was reading my agenda, that if we're putting it in for a reason, if it's just calm, if it's to slow down, if it's to, you know, break up things, I don't have a problem. But when it says because there are people who live there, how do we ever change it if people don't live there anymore? That was really the question.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councilor Chichuk, understood. That's a difficult one to answer right now, but generally, you know, we have to deal with the conditions of today, right? And as we have done a full review of this in this one, and you probably know me, normally I don't.
You say no to me all the time. I know that.
I don't do things unless we have a good engineering, scientific background, but this
Right.
one does make sense
And
to
that's fair.
us.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
And I just want to make a comment. I've been trying to obviously move and talk because the residents have approached me on this issue multiple times. And lowering the speed is always a good thing, especially when it comes to a hamlet of a certain area in this community. I understand what you're saying, Councillor Chichuk, but then if someone wants the speed increased, I think that'd have to come into a recommendation that someone would have to come forward and bring the speed up, right? So until that comes forward, then maybe we'll have to worry about it then. But to say that as we're lowering it right now, for someone to bring it back up to 80, they'd probably have to come into a request, and then it'll be up to council's discretion to move forward to that request. But
Exactly. We used to have group housing on Caister Center Road, if you'll remember, Councillor Trombetta.
Yes.
Where the individuals used to walk along the side of the road. So when you talk about the presentation we had at the last committee, there was probably 8 or 10 people lived at that group housing. And they used to walk up and down Caister Center Road. And that wasn't exactly safe, but that was their exercise.
Yeah.
So, but that group housing is gone now. So it'd be a perfect example of the fact that had we lowered it for that, what would trigger that change? That's all. And if we
Correct,
don't have
yeah.
one, you know, I'm better caution to the situation. I'm not saying that. It just made me wonder, you know, how do we get rid of the residuals if there ever is any?
And
That's
hopefully, you know, and we all know we have an issue on Regional Road 65.
Do we ever?
We've had multiple issues. We've had multiple. That's a regional road. We all know that. And hopefully, maybe this opens up some eyes to people at the region, saying that, you know what, we're lowering speed because of these areas and because of the people that are in this area. Maybe it'll do some help, and hopefully in the future for Regional Road
Well, my
65.
corner lot is actually growing plastic decals from cars.
Yeah. So hopefully we can put the noise out there. Anyways,
Thank you.
any more comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, and that carries. Recommendation number 4. Someone pulled this one to talk about it. Councillor Bell. Moving in a seconder. Councillor Bell, Mayor Joyner. Go ahead, Councillor Bell. You have the floor.
So, first of all, I just want to know that I'm in favor of this, for the specific one. But moving forward, I just think that, I look at the background in here, in June 23rd, 2014, there was an amendment to the refreshment card license bylaw. it was adopted, which allowed for refreshment vehicles, cycles, carts to be set up at the township organized events, subject to paying a daily fee of X number of dollars. And then it was set out in the bylaw in 2010-20, which requires applicants to provide the following. It gives criteria of 9 different things that they must meet to get the license. And the one that I'm questioning, that I believe should be handled by staff, not by council, and it's number 5. Every application for a license for a refreshment vehicle, refreshment cart, or refreshment cycle shall be approved by council. And, you know, I asked, why is council approving refreshment vehicles, carts, or any other form of refreshment stand? To me, this is something that staff should be dealing with, approving or denying. Council should only get involved if it's an exceptionally special request, something out of the ordinary, that staff then could bring it back to council. But this is just an everyday thing, approving a license for the refreshment cart. And I don't believe council should be involved in doing that. I believe it should be, and I don't, the responsibility of the staff. We have more than capable people that look after that and deal with that. So, moving forward, I'd like to see that change. Get a recommendation out there on to try to change it.
Okay. Counselor Bosma?
Let me just ask for clarification. Your request is specifically for these one-day events or these
No,
types of...
it's for all.
Oh, I think, I know why.
Because I
That's all
think,
that.
so we've had quite long deliberations at council for refreshment carts that, you know, we have actually quite a bit of a difference of opinion around this table. I mean, for the permanent ones, I would agree in principle to what Councilor Bell's saying for the one-day events. You know, you go one-day event, I have no problem getting the vegan hippie one in or whatever.
You can name the other one too. What's the other one?
The weenie.
Go ahead.
So anyway, long story short, for the one-day events, no problem. But I think the permanent ones, we want to, I still would like to retain, like to continue to support them or be able to pull the plug on them if that's our desire. So anyway, that's just a caution about going down the road. I'm in favor of this, by the way, just to say.
Yeah. I see the Mayor Joyner to my left.
So it's a very good question, Councillor Bell. The reason why it has to come to council is because the mayor is a member of the Board of Health. And as council, you're an extension of the mayor of council. So that's why it has to come to council, because it's a Board of Health issue. That's how I understand it. That's how it was explained to me. I'll look for clarification from Ms. Beatty on that, but that's why they said it had to.
Right off the top, number 1 says approval of the medical officer of health. So, or designate, so, no disrespect.
That's, I can explain that, Mr. Chair. The reason for that is because the Chief Medical Officer of Health is the overriding law-abiding person that looks after public health, and the public health officials are under his or her jurisdiction, and that's why number 1 is in there, so that public health comes out and checks each one of these food carts.
Mr. Mayor, let's just get some clarification. Why did this come in the past, Madam Clerk? How did this come to be in the past, and why are we doing it now? Can you help me out with that one?
Through to members of council, certainly council did want to be involved in the approval process. The delegation of this has never been done to staff. I'm not familiar with the explanation that Mayor Joyner has provided. However, it would be something to look into. I'm not sure that Wendy's aware also, so we can certainly look into that and the option of potentially delegating some of this, the one-day events, perhaps to staff, but it would be something that I would like to tackle perhaps in the fall, if that's okay.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mayor Joyner, did you still have the floor? Did you complete it? Thank you. Councilor Chichuk.
You know, I would prefer to put this off to the fall, because I do think that there was some discretion that council wanted to retain, given that on one-day events you may want to provide opportunity to those local charities or not-for-profits, such as 4-H with their booth or some of the others that would want to be there, because we also provide them with an opportunity to waive the $100 fee. And so we were concerned that I know one of the concerns we had was that there would be people coming from far and wide to sell their products. It was a one-day event, and it's very difficult in a one-day event to get a number of people. So we wanted to restrict the number and where they were coming from to give, I won't say advantage, but to have our own not-for-profit groups be able to support the event that we were having. So we certainly have that discussion in the fall, given the CAO's suggestion.
Thank you, Councilor Chichuk. Any other questions, comments? I just got one. Sorry, do you have any more?
As long as we get this on the agenda.
Yeah, and I agree with getting with my colleagues around the table getting this on the agenda in the fall. I think for one-day things, I think we have senior staff that's more than capable enough to making the decision if these carts are valid or they're not for these licenses. I think we don't need to, as council, to come across approving all these licenses every single time and coming forward. I think if we can make a recommendation in August, we can come to consensus, all of us, and decide what we will do with these carts. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chair, I agree with you. Can we just wait until September to do a notice of motion for sometime in October?
If my members around the horseshoe are okay with that, then we can. Do we need a motion now or just leave it as is? Okay. Okay, so then all those in favor of number 4, and that carries. Okay, communications. Anita Philpott, Secretary Treasurer, West Niagara Agricultural Society, designation of the West Niagara Fair as a community festival. The recommendation that the correspondence of Anita Philpott, Secretary Treasurer of the West Niagara Agricultural Society, dated June 14, 2017, requesting that the 2017 West Niagara Fair be designated as a community festival in order to obtain special events permit from the Ontario Alcohol and Gaming Commission be received, and that Council of the Corporation of the Township of West Lincoln hereby designate the 2017 West Niagara Fair as a community festival of municipal significance in accordance with the Liquor License Act of the Ontario and Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, which, sorry, I got a little bit more to read. I know you guys are a little eager. Which the festival will be held from Thursday, September 7th to and including Sunday, September 10, 2017 at the West Niagara Agricultural Center, 7402 Mud Street, Grassy. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. And I'm sorry, Councillor Ganand, they were really quick in the middle of that. The Mayor and Councillor Chichuk. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, and that carries. Staff reports, move on to number 8. Budget amendment, item PW 43-17, Coordinator Recreational Services, Wendy Beatty. Recommendation report, RFD PW 2117, Canada 150 event budget amendment. Recommendation, budget amendment, the report, RFD PW 21-2017, Canada 150 budget amendment date on June 19, 2017 be received, and that council approve the amendment to budget up to $28,900 to fund the shortfall identified for the Canada 150 through a transfer from the contingency reserve. Welcome, Mrs. Beatty. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Bell, Councillor Chichuk. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, and that carries. Other business, PW 44-17, Director of Public Works and Engineering, Brent Julian. Verbal update, this is on the MERS. You have the floor when you're ready, Mr. Julian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to you and through you to the members of committee. I'd like to give you a brief update on the MERS. So the design committee has been meeting weekly with our contractor, Ball Construction, and we've been working towards the design layout, the movement around of the boxes, as you will, of the building. The site work and floor plan is near completion, and once that is done, we've actually started to work on some of the discussions for the energy efficiency and the leads points and how we will attain that. That will be a bit more of a comprehensive discussion. We're also trying to arrange for an opportunity with Enbridge and MPEI they have the savings on energy program that you can do a charrette, and we're trying to bring them involved for a one-day thing that will sit down with the complete design team, and hopefully we get some good suggestions out of that. Once that's complete, the design moves into the electrical mechanical design phase, the more intricate parts of the building. We are currently scheduled to commence construction from mid to late August, and we still have a targeted occupancy of the library, splash bed, playground, and the skateboard park tentatively for the summer of 2018. Construction will start with the site preparation works and the underground, and then we'll move on to the underground, the water and the wastewater, and then we'll move on to the foundation works. We are planning to have a groundbreaking ceremony. I know everybody's been interested in that. Right now, that is tentatively scheduled for the first to the mid of August. We just need a little bit more time to get some details to put that together, but we will definitely keep council informed on that, and we look forward to your participation at that. The one item we do need to advise our council members is that once construction starts, that construction site will be owned by the constructor. So there's some safety concerns there, and so it will be fenced off for safety reasons. The current playground will stay in operation until the finish of the Labor Day weekend. Once that is complete, then that playground will also be taken out of service, and like I said earlier, with the target of having the outdoor features, including the new playground, open for the following summer. Again, that is largely for safety reasons. We reviewed the possibility of trying to have on the west side a fenced-off corridor, but we thought that was going to really create a tunnel situation. So you can imagine somebody in need in the middle of the night, halfway through, and having no way to escape. So that was really put to bed really quick. In order to help facilitate, they are going to cordon off the north end, but keep access from Wesley Drive to Swayze Court, so that people can still get through to West Street via Autumn Circle and the walkway through there. And what we will do is we'll make sure that we get proper notifications through the newspaper and also on the website, right, to keep the public informed on that. The fundraising capital campaign is kicked off with the first stage, which was the community survey scan. The purpose of this scan is to speak to members of the community to see how the project's resonating with the community, to seek opinions and advise, and also to assess expectations of that campaign. Right now, our consultant, Campaign Coaches, has given me weekly updates, and to date, I can tell you that he has actually completed 6 interviews. He's got a further 10 interviews that are confirmed. 8 have agreed to participate in the campaign, and that these are separate from the previous 16 interviews for a total of 24 people so far. This is very early in the campaign. He has had 4 declines, and speaking with Glenn Boy of Campaign Coaches, he feels that he feels quite comfortable with this, with these numbers and the way this is proceeding. We will bring more information to council, regular information to council as this moves forward, but that's where we're at to date.
Thank you, Mr. Julian. It's really informative news for this council and this township as well. Any comments for Mr. Julian? Madam Clerk?
Through you to members of the committee. So we just wanted to specifically mention that we know that the residents will have some concerns that they won't be able to get from West Street entrance where the playground is down to the arena by foot anymore as of September. So there will be some sort of communication to the residents to let them know. I'm not sure in what form at this stage, but, you know, I think that that's going to be a big thing, and as long as they're notified ahead of time, that would be appropriate. But for safety reasons, of course, it's the best thing to just shut the site right down. So there won't be access to that site from the arena parking lot. That's the arena. They won't be able to get to the back end unless they go around. So we'll get that out, but we just wanted you to know ahead of time too, so that there was no, you know, frustration with the community. I'm sure they'll be frustrated, but that's a safety thing. So.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I have Councillor Bell first. He wanted to put it.
Through Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank Mr. Julian and Ball Construction and everyone involved for the work they've done, put into it. It was a great report, and I really appreciate you taking the safety consideration of the residents. And I know it's going to upset people, I get it. The playground being shut down, but the safety, yeah, for sure. The winter months will be coming come September, so it's not going to be a great hardship for us, and I'm sure the wait will be well worth it. So, thank you for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Mayor Joyner?
Chair. So I would ask that the acting CAO and Madam Clerk also put the fact that the playground will be closed down as of Labor Day too as well. So if we could put that on the exact same communique as the closure from north to south. And second, I have a question for Mr. Julian. The MIAC, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, would like to be involved somewhat in the design of the skateboard park. And they want to ask, there's a gentleman who has been assisting the township of Pelham in the design of their skateboard park too as well. I don't know the gentleman's name, but my question to you is, Mr. Julian, if they sit down and have this conversation in September or October, is there still time to implement some of their design plans?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mayor Joyner and really to all of the committee members, I must apologize because you tweaked my memory on one important thing that I should have mentioned, and that is that we are actually having a stakeholder meeting for the skateboard design, because we are by far the least in the expertise. The kids are the ones that are most important. So what we have done, I believe the date is I'll get it to confirm it to you, but I believe it's June 28th, and it starts at 4 p.m. at the fort. So we've got the fort involved. We've got the West Lincoln High School here, South Lincoln High School here. So we have reached out to some of the community. So that would be great if we could make a few more connections like that.
So, Mr. Julian, do you have this gentleman who is no? So we're going to do it on our own? Can we rethink this, maybe?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the mayor. I'm not aware of this gentleman, so I'd be happy to have him come down to this meeting. It's important that we stay on target as much as we can with the design discussions, so that we can give direction to the skateboard designing architect. But
So
I think
my
the
initial-
appropriate thing would be if we could to work it out so that gentleman could come to our meeting.
So, Mr. Chair, through you, so my initial question is it too late to have this gentleman come in September? Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, to the mayor, I misunderstood that, yes. Yeah, we would have, that design should be done by then. Is there any way that he can come for June 28th?
Anything further, Mr. Mayor? Thank you. Councillor Bell, for a second time.
Through you to Mr. Julian. So the skate park, the subcontract is hired by Ball to design and build the skate park. He's still on side. Is that understood or no?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Bell, absolutely. They are all sub-consultants. There's landscape architects, there's, but not sure what they exactly call this, skateboard architect, but they have their own disciplines, and they have a sub-consultant
So
that
second
does this
part-
for a living.
Will they be present at the June 28th meeting to consult with our youth and adults, whoever wants to be there, I guess?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bell, yes, that's the purpose of this meeting.
Okay, so it's an open meeting to the community.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Julian. I'll move on to B, members of council, any business of informative nature. I'll start from my right. Council Bell, Council Balsma, Councilor Ganan.
Yes, I would just like to say that I'm going to the age-friendly workshops on Wednesday. I didn't know if anybody else was going. In Thora? Yeah. You're going? Okay. We also have a citizen. I've sort of delayed talking with Carolyn about getting that committee going, but Sue Langdon also is going as part of the public delegation going. So, okay, good. That's all.
Great, thank you. Councilor, Madam Clerk, anything? Councilor Chichuk? Mr. Mayor?
Nothing really other than to say, hope to see all the councillors at the Poultry Fest. I'm sure you'll all be there at some point in the day, and really looking forward to the nighttime entertainment. Kyria Isabella, I hear that she's exceptional, so looking forward to all the events that day.
You're not getting dunked this year?
No one's asked me to be in the dunk tank, but if they do, I'll suggest you, Councillor Trombetta.
Councilor Chichuk, sorry.
You know, that's a great point, and Mayor Joyner talks about Poultry Fest, but, you know, all municipalities are going to be celebrating Canada 150, but the little township of West Lincoln is actually got bookends, and we're celebrating all year, but we're also celebrating for 2 weekends. We'll start with a bang and a great big concert, and then we have a number of events happening on Canada Day. So we'll finish with a bang, and I don't think those will be the last of the events that this township will be celebrating for Canada 150. So I hope that everyone helps and joins with us in helping to celebrate this country's 150th birthday.
Great, thank you, Councilor Chichuk. So seeing that there's nothing else, there's no new business, there's no confidential matters, I will call the adjournment to this meeting at 9:45. Thank you, members of committee.